Hey guys, Marty from Team Peace and Pass here, and we're going to be doing a segment called Damage Report. Um, as ban lists come out and change cards in the meta, we want to discuss kind of what changes, what decks are affected by this, and other factors like that. So this is going to be a segment that we're going to be launching when cards are changed. Obviously, Weebs does launch some lists that don't make changes. We're not going to be doing it for those because those don't matter. But this one did change quite a bit with some of the decks that are on the top of the meta. So I want to look back at January's ban list, what was banned, and kind of compare it. So, looking at what was previously banned, Korhazi Outlook, opponents can activate cards this turn, that was a huge problem. Remove a prep, find a Shadow Strike, they can't interact with it, and then you're swinging for 30. So Outlook was definitely a problem card. Erupting Rhapsody, Matt G got it banned because it was his deck, dealing level damage, with the harmonizing and dealing bursts of astronomical damage. Crystal of Empowerment, the new spirits with the shards that you have to be at level 3, this obviously was a problem because you could just buff and get the draw right away versus gradually leveling up. Also Lorraine with cards like Banner Knight, so leveling up, they get the +1 attack while you're at level 1, or even just Merlin with multiple instances of Fireball, right? You have 3 Fireballs in hand, you play this, and then they're dealing a total of 6 extra damage between all the Fireballs, so that was definitely a reason for that. Reckless Conversion, Arcane, draw cards in the memory, banish 4, you're banishing Arcane cards, so you're gaining your levels, returning all the cards back to your hand so you can play, your Arcane Blasts and things like that for free now instead of having to level up and do other aspects. Definitely was a problem card, so they've addressed these very well. And then Sword of Avarice, right? Draw 2, Spirit Belly Dissension, Ghost of Pendragon, drawing 16 cards in one turn was nuts, and so all these warranted being banned for sure, and they were the problem cards in their time. Category 2, you have Baby Gray Slime, and then on top of that, so you obviously the draw mechanic of everything with Baby Gray, filtering and drawing cards and doing all that, but then also Chalice of Blood, right? Jhin was a potential maybe problem card that you got the damage, level up. Not a lot of other decks are really playing this right now, but it could be a potential problem in the future. So we'll definitely see what happens with this. Still sitting at Category 2 with that draw aspect. You get to 20, you get to just draw 2 for free. So, but with Jhin falling out, not being one of those top tier decks, we'll see. Category 1, basically your watch list cards that might have a problem implication in the future versus other ones. So Dream Fairy, returning an ally, they can't play it as long as you have Dream Fairy on board. That is a very big problem potentially down the road once you start getting these dudes that need to be on, that you want them to be like this end game board ally, and if they just go, okay, cool, Dream Fairy, put it away, that's gonna hurt, right? You set up all this stuff to get this big dude out. Gaia's Blessing, banishing obviously your 4 animals or beasts, for the materialization, flipping over a Storm Slime, being able to play it from your deck feels really bad. So something that could be, if slimes continue to be a problem. Icebound Slam got put to Category 1 in January. Milling 5. Water decks were creeping up as a problem. Scepter Lumina, same concept. Getting the ability to draw 2 cards, getting the ability to deal damage, and then Stone Scale banned. This has been altered a couple different times. So it used to cost 0, it did a lot of different things. They re-entered that. So what does February's ban list look like? So 2 changes have been made in regards to the February ban list. You had Icebound Slam and you had Baby Gray. Both of these are problematic cards in their own respective decks. Icebound Slam, milling, doing all the damage, and then Baby Gray being like a package option to draw, which we'll go over a little bit more in depth here later on in the video. But these 2 have been now banned. They were, Icebound got bumped to Category 2, but both will come banned Monday. Category 2. Scepter Illumina. So Scepter Illumina, dealing the 4 damage, drawing the cards. Vanitas is one of the water hybrid decks that kind of broke this. We'll go over that a little bit. I do think that this card personally is fine now, that there isn't as much problems with it, but we'll definitely see what happens with Abyssal Heaven. Category 1. What cards got put onto Category 1? Well, we had Lost in Thought, and then we also had Polaris. So Lost in Thought, We'll go over that a little bit, but then Polaris, obviously, some people feel with the board wipe and the Cosmic Bolt shuffling. And then no longer on the list, Stone Scale Band. After 2 alters, they finally got it to where they want it to be, to where they don't feel that it needs to be on any list. Icebound Slam, with it being banned. Who are the losers of Icebound Slam getting banned? Well, that's me. Because as a water player, and of course all the other water players playing this deck. So, reason why, banning of Icebound Slam, taking that initial 8 damage in those opening couple turns, getting double Icebound Slam for 16, just losing outright with that. Additionally, milling 5 cards, setting up plenty of floating memory for materializing, for Myriad, Icebound Slamming, mill 4, and then you Myriad the turn after, and that's 20 damage, right? Even if you're a level 1 champ, that sucks. Polar Depth setup 2, being able to mill everything, being able to, mill 5, then mill another 5, kind of get everything set up. So this definitely slows down the water deck and that kind of mill aspect of just outright starting the game off with 5 engrave. And then having people having to nullifying Lantern and then you still kill them with Myriad versus another Icebound Slam. So deck altering and building specifically for this card was definitely problematic, and it's a good change, right? And frankly, for me as a water player, I don't care. So, meta decks that were affected: Water Ahri, Water Sylvie, Nico, Vanitas hybrids. Like I said, Icebound Slam, for me, I always milled them, and milled no float, so it didn't matter. So, but we'll definitely see how this changed with those. But winners of this, Water Haters, and decks that cannot combat that 16 damage over the first couple turns, having to build a deck tailored around not taking that damage does feel pretty bad. So it's a good warranted ban on a card, and definitely see something, that water still has plenty of milling. So we can definitely look into some alternative options here in a little bit with that. So looking at Baby Gray, losers of Baby Gray, Slimes and Razor Gale, right? Baby Gray being that draw outlet for slime decks, intercept early game, pretty strong for a setup. There's turns where you go first and you go Baby Gray, Forest Cake. You drew 3 cards in that turn. And then Razor Gale playing a package of Slime Shield, Baby Gray, Baby Green, and sometimes even the Cake, and just having that as a consistent draw outlet to be able to dig into your cards for Razor Gale. And so that became a problem as well. But what will the new replacement look like? There's a couple theories with this. So a couple things that have come to mind for me is you can tailor a Sylvie class bonus, so you can't do it on the opening turn, where a lot of people like to set that up. You can also have it be Imbue, and with Imbue having to reveal 2 different attributes of slime cards, so that way something like Nullifying Mirror can combat it as a deck, and they're not drawing as much with that. And then the other factor that you can maybe put into there is drawing into memory. Right, instead of drawing into hand, like Windmill Engineers Imbue 2, draw into memory. Maybe they need to fix it to do that. So those are a few different aspects that they could look into that would still allow Baby Gray a Baby Gray form to exist, still drawing cards, but it's just not in hand. And there's ways to kind of counter it a little bit more effectively, and they're not doing it on the first turn. That might be something that we see with that kind of change. They can go various different ways with it too. I think that might be an okay way, right? Sylvie can't play it as a spirit. If you imbue, you have a Nullifying Mirror to counter it, and then drawing into memory instead of drawing into hand. Making those few different changes to something like this will definitely allow still a draw card, but not to be as powerful as drawing it into your hand. So that's just something that in the aspect of what I feel might be a good replacement option, but we'll definitely see what Weebs comes out with when they release this card come the Slime Deck Light that they said that they were announcing for, as well as Mercurial Hearts Ultra Edition that comes out in May. So we'll definitely see what they come up with on that, but meta decks that were affected by this, Slime of all variants and Razor Gale, right? Those are the main decks, little package options that are on there. Winners? Me, because I don't like playing slimes. I hate Storm Slime personally, but all those decks that feel the hyper consistency of using this to draw cards and just outpacing you, those are definitely winners who don't play these decks and don't like combating it for sure. Polaris. Arisana obviously is affected by this being on a category. One, Polaris being that board wipe and the feel for Ahri, something that might need to be checked down the road if it continues to be dominant. Maybe eventually they change it up and allow decks cards in the main deck to shuffle Cosmic Bolts, like shuffle one into the deck or shuffle two and then glimpse two or something like that to kind of promote it versus like this, I get to play it for free, sack my herbs, draw cards, or shuffle cards in the deck and start being able to glimpse. They might tailor that and change it up. We'll see. Water decks. Scepter, Lumina, and Lost in Thought. With Scepter going to Category 2 and Lost in Thought Category 1. Scepter, obviously, a lot of people have complaints about the huge draw outlet and the dealing of the 4 damage. This definitely was a problem with the Vanitas Water Hybrid because you were able to Icebound Slam when you're at level 2. And then that deals 9 and you are able to free level up, right? So if you're at level 1, you had the Scepter Lumina in play, you level up to 2, you Icebound Slam. They took 4 from that, they took 9 from the Icebound, you go to level 3, and then you Innervate Agility down and go back up to level 3. That's 21 damage from playing 2 cards. So that might be a problem in the future. And then Lost in Thought, being able to pitch to level up, or obviously the ability to pay like 5, for example, and then just draw 5 cards. So both of these, I think that Scepter Lumina is perfectly fine in my opinion. Obviously, Vanitas is no longer a thing with the Icebound Slam capabilities, right? And we'll see what Dao Chan and Gojia and other decks do with this. So it might be a warranted problem to ban. I think it's perfectly fine in my opinion, but they might have something different. Proxia's Vault. We did end up getting Reciprocity, the Guardian Sword Weapon Tenoris bonus. As long as you control 2 or more domains, you can activate this from your material deck. Then you can remove a durability from it to negate up to 1 target upkeep trigger. And then if you control 2 domains, you get an automaton ally. Maybe, a little bit of help for Tenoris. Definitely needs a little bit more help than that, in my opinion. But step in the good direction, the right direction to kind of help with this. So we'll definitely see if this makes an impact with the card and see what happens in the future with it. Is water dead? No, it's not dead by any stretch of the imagination or by any means. There's plenty of cards that exist. You have Tide Bovine for attacking and milling. That obviously with Sylvie floating Seaside Ringleader, you have your banish and draw a card and put a buff on there. You also have Rippleback. So Rippleback will allow you to essentially banish and get a float for a draw. So there's lots of these various cards that allow you to essentially make it and get there with allies, that the deck just kind of becomes this little bit of a mid-range feel, more or less, to the deck. I mean, at the end of the day, these guys are all for Sylvie buff, and you can just kind of play it in that aspect of things as well for it. You also have Frostborn Paladin, one of the best water cards in the game. Draw a card, get a buff, 3-drop, 3/4. Lost in Thought for drawing, Rhymestone Bishop, or Rhymesoul Bishop for drawing as well when you're a cleric. So lots of variation to draw. Primordial Ritual for your milling aspect of the deck. Torrential Blast if you're a cleric for milling and everything like that. You also have Vapor Jet Shield Bearer if you're Nico, kind of playing with that. Stratagem, Myriad of Ice still exist. Ravishing Finale, and of course Fractal of Polar Depths, all win conditions for the deck. So definitely a good solid option to consider with those. One thing you do want to think about, which we'll obviously go over with HVN and the stuff, is the Fable Sapphire Fadestone. Beginning Recollection, each player mills the top card of their deck and puts it in the graveyard. You get your counters, your quest counters on your champion, 9 or more. On your champion, you get to wake up the Fadestone. So obviously with the milling application of that, you can definitely promote and get Genbu the Black Tortoise, who lets you pay 3 and then it will gain health equal to the amount of water cards in graveyard. You can only activate it once per turn, but you got 20 cards in grave. It's a 3/29. Huge stats, huge card. Spell Shroud can't be targeted. It's got to be killed. So that's something to consider, and we'll go over that a little bit more with HVN as the set gets completely released, and we can start doing like some things with that, kind of going to like a set review option. But this is something to consider. They're tamer cards, so you can play all of the other stuff. Is Slimes dead as well? Well, some of this, with the application, do I think that the regular Slimes, it is hit? A lot of people are playing the Fire Wand still, so Creative Shock, Cremation Ritual are draw outlets for the deck. Getting those things, starting to draw, discard your floating, things like that. So you can also play Hasty Messenger. It's not as good, obviously, in turn 1 because you don't get the draw and you have to attack. But that's something to maybe consider playing for now until May comes around. Ethereal Slime and Storm Slime are still broken cards. They still do great things for the deck. Lots of burst damage, lots of draw, and big stats with stealth. So these things really do take effect and still promote the deck strongly. But with Mercurial Heart coming out and the light slime deck, we're going to obviously get a replacement for Baby Gray. So we'll see what happens with that. Overall, I want to thank you guys for watching this video. I know it was a little bit longer, kind of went a little in depth with things. I want you guys to like, comment, subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. The next video is coming out. We're going to divulge into Gojira and Dialchan, kind of reviewing those. And then once the full set is out, we'll start doing element-based strategies and cards reviews and a top 20 cards or top 10 cards. But with that being said, thanks guys, and as always, peace.